Focus. Ideate. Innovate. Enable.
The National Stock Exchange of India has been actively involved with initiatives to educate the young generation of our country on the importance of financial management. One such initiative is NSE FinWiz that focuses on educating and advising the young workforce of the country on wealth management to enhance financial literacy and to empower
Insurance
them.
is for protection and investment is for growth.
Another program facilitated by NSE IPFT is NSE Financial Quest. This inter-school financial quiz contest goes an extra mile by educating the young students on fundamentals of finance.
On the buzzer, what is this? It's the formula for the simple interest. Simple interest is the right answer.
Under the NSE Financial Quest Base Camps banner, the program engages students around the year through workshops on various topics, projects, interactive videos and quizzes.
DiCaprio is bouncing checks of Pan Am.
Plus 75 on that. Plus 75.
To facilitate these two programs, NSE along with CNBC TV18 has travelled across the country to bridge the wide knowledge gap in terms of finance. In this episode of NSE FinWiz, we are all set to achieve our objectives once again by gauging young professionals in a new city. Paris-based Capgemini is one of the world's leading consulting, technology and outsourcing service providers. Present in over 40 countries with over 180,000 employees, the Capgemini Group helps its clients transform in order to improve their performance and competitive positioning. Capgemini India was established in 2001 with its first office in Mumbai. Capgemini in India has a workforce of over 85,000 people across 9 cities. A pioneer in the IT industry, Capgemini has over 45 years of global experience collaborating with leading corporations and has dedicated teams to assist clients across multiple sectors. NSE FinWiz visited the headquarters of Capgemini in Mumbai along with the experts to gauge the thoughts and notions of the employees on financial planning and wealth management with the theme Dreams Come True.
I have got some lock-ins in terms of some capital investments in property, etc. So I would like to completely remove that debt in 10 to 15 years of time so that I have financial independence, and probably I would like to invest in my own ventures after that.
As an investor, I'm somebody who tries to play a balance between risk and reward. So I try and keep my investments regular through systematic investment planning. And sometimes also into equities as well as another area. But I'm not a very I would say aggressive investor, but I try to play a balance wherever I can.
Wealth management, irrespective whether it is young or old, it becomes very important because it depends on how then your future would be planned. The more you save, the more better life you will have in future. Therefore, wealth management for youngsters nowadays is very important because they are typically spendthrifts and they don't believe in saving. And my advice therefore would be to youngsters that the more you save, the more rested life you will have.
First and foremost, being a mother of a 9-year-old son, I would definitely like to see my son successful, and money should not be a hindrance to it. So that is the primary reason that I would like to save my money. And second is definitely I want financial stability during my retirement. So I want to retire well and have a peace of mind then. So these are the two reasons that why I'm saving money for.
Hello and welcome to Season 4 of NSE FinWiz powered by CNBC TV18, and I'm your host Nitya Balakrishnan. Today my team and I are in the knowledge center of one of the globe's leaders in technology and consulting, Capgemini in Mumbai. I'm joined by two very special guests on today's show. We have Mr. Hemant Rastagi and Mr. Feroz Aziz. Thank you so much for joining us here at Capgemini. And let me throw the floor open by asking Feroz to answer this very simple question. Making money is something that's so important to all of us, irrespective of gender, irrespective of generation. But how important is it to start factoring in how to multiply your money?
See, I think like you rightly said, multiplying money and creating wealth is a very important aspect of one's life. Because as you progress in life, your earning capacity keeps coming down, but your expenses keep going up, and the commodities you consume become more and more expensive. So as long as your money is actually growing more than the commodities price and is actually factoring in this reduction of your earning capacity, then you're good. And so you can sustain your lifestyles forever. So multiplying the money is a very, very important part of a financial plan so that you can sustain your lifestyles for good.
Hemant, if I can ask you to jump in and tell us really, what are the tools that one can use when you talk about wealth creation? Because the Indian mindset is, again, looking at typical schemes like the NPS, a fixed or savings, a bank account. But nobody really goes ahead and experiments. And even when you do, maximum is the equity markets. So talk to us really about what are the tools in the equity markets and others as well, where one can park funds today.
Well, I think there is no doubt about the fact that all of us want to make money. All of us want our money to grow. But I think there is a way of going about it. The problem is many investors, when they start investing, without realizing in which direction the money has to go, what exactly they want to do with the money, they start investing. Now, for example, if I want to invest some money, a friend of mine comes and tells me that equity markets are doing very well. I will go and put my money there. If the equity markets are down, someone comes and tells me, now this is another time for you to go into equity, go into debt. I will put my money into debt. And then someone comes and tells me, why not gold? So I will start putting money in the gold. See what I did? I did invest my money. I did not see what exactly my need, what my goals are. I did not see whether I have the capacity to take the risk which comes with equity. Maybe I invested a lot of my money into debt, for example, which made my portfolio very, very conservative. Whereas I was investing for the long term. So I think it's very, very important to have a financial plan in place. Like everything else that we do in life, it's very, very important that we plan our investments. So what do we do with that? We begin 2 or 3 steps. One, what exactly I want to achieve with my money, which means what my goals are. All of us have goals. There are goals that we want to achieve in the short term, in the medium term, in the long term. Short term could be that you want to go out with your family out for a trip. Medium term could be that you want to buy a car. Long term could be buy a house, or could be for education of your children. So all of us have goals. Once you define your goals, what it does for you is, it allows you to decide in which direction your money has to go. How much can go into equity, how much can go into debt, how much you need to invest to achieve this goal. So I think what I'm trying to say here is that you need to give direction to your money. It's all important that we start investing early. There are many people who start investing early, but without a plan. So I think all of us want to create wealth. There is nothing wrong with it, but do it with a plan. Make sure that your money gets the direction that it deserves to get.
Fantastic. Now, before I actually take a show of hands as to how many of us here, save monthly and, towards a specific goal, towards a specific direction, like you mentioned, Hemant. Feroz, I'd like you to talk about the power of compounding and why it's so essential when you talk about financial planning. Simply because if I were to give a scenario where a 25-year-old were to set aside about 10,000 rupees, at the end of 60, when he or she is ready to retire, what kind of corpus are you talking about vis-a-vis a 35-year-old who starts 10 years later, maybe?
Power of compounding, as it is called, the 8th wonder of the world. It always never fails to surprise me of what it actually has as an output when you actually compute and do the mathematics around it. For example, like Nitya was saying, that if a person advances his investments by 5 years, let's assume you're going to invest for 25 years, you say, no, let me start a little early. As soon as I start working, let me start saving. The corpus at maturity can double. Just by advancing your investments by 5 years, quite a few of us actually start earning, and then given 5-7 years of joy to actually start saving by the time we turn 30. If you advance it by 5 years, the corpus you would collect would be twice as more. So every 5 years you advance your investments, you get twice more the corpus. Like Nitya, you said, if I invest 10 years sooner, you will be left with 4 times more the corpus. If you were going to accumulate 50 lakhs, if you started 10 years sooner with the same amount, you'll be left with 2 crores. So that's power of compounding. So I think missing the bus of power of compounding is something which is not so prudent. And I think that's what helps you multiply the money. See, there are two ways to make money. One is to outsmart the rest of them. The other is to out-discipline other people. Outsmarting everybody is a very tough task because everybody can't outsmart everybody else. But out-disciplining other people is the right approach to actually creating wealth. So I think that's more important. And power of compounding comes to the favor of anybody who's more disciplined than somebody who's a little more reckless with his investments.
All right, it's Personal Finance 101 here at Capgemini in Mumbai. But on that note, time to slip into a quick break. Stay tuned, lots more on the other side. Welcome back in conversation with Feroz Aziz and Hemant Rostagi, and it's time to throw the spotlight on debt instruments. Our core topic for today is what are the kind of debt instruments available in the Indian market and how do we look at parking our funds and balancing investment into debt instruments along with that into equity. So Hemant, if I can first ask you the basic question of what are the kinds of debt instruments that come to mind foremost when you talk about the average Indian investor?
As I mentioned earlier, debt definitely has a role to play. Maybe it's a limited role to play depending on your time horizon. But the fact is, time has come for investors to invest smartly in the debt instruments. Now, how do you do that? There are market-linked products like mutual funds. What mutual funds do is they invest in various debt instruments. Some money goes into bank fixed deposit, bonds, debenture, but they're very different because when you're investing in a bond, generally you end up holding it till maturity. Whenever there is a change in the interest rate, you don't get benefit of that. When you invest in a mutual fund, right, the fund manager manages cash flow, which means that if the interest rate is going down, for example, today if you see the interest rates are going down, your FD is giving you lower return, your small savings are giving you lower return, how do you improve your return? By investing in debt funds, because there is an inverse relationship between the bond price and the yield. So I think it's time for investors to go beyond the safety that they look for and look at investment options like mutual funds.
Absolutely. Now, Feroz, if you look at bonds versus debentures, talk to us really about why there seems to be hesitancy in the Indian investor when you look at these kind of vehicles to park your funds.
See, what do you mean by debt? Before we get more specific of what are the instruments, debt is lending to a company is called debt. Becoming a partner of a company is called equity. So if you're lending to a company and if you stand alone lend it without an intermediary, you will not be able to buy and sell bonds so extensively. So like Hemant mentioned, a mutual fund wraps all these bonds. See, when you lend money to a company, the biggest risk is what if the company is not solvent enough or is not solvent to repay your money. So that's a very big risk. So if you actually buy a mutual fund, he will not lend to one company, he will lend to 40 companies, 50 companies. So mutual fund, point one which I'm making is the mutual fund is a very, very efficient platform to buy debt. Point two which I'm making, which I think Hemant has already made, is because mutual fund is a trust, actually a trust format, taxation is very, very efficient. Third, you also get the benefit of the fund manager's intelligence and tries to give you extra return than the interest which the companies whom you have lent to gives. So for these three reasons, I would always recommend people to not buy a bond directly, but you use a mutual fund.
Fantastic. If we can have Manoj Singhvi, a senior consultant here, the query that he has on debt instruments is, A, can they help in beating inflation, Hemant? And B, do any debt instruments have particular exposures to a company or sector in the long run? Are there any such available options?
Debt definitely is not an asset class to be invested for long term, because that's where, because it does not have the capability or the capacity to beat inflation in the long run. What are you looking at, short term and medium term? Because you do not want to take too much risk, you're looking at an option which can give you better return than what you get in fixed deposits, and also where the risk is reduced. Because mutual funds are diversified investment vehicle, you should be looking at investing in the income fund or different kind of debt funds rather than going and directly investing into debt market.
Now, if we have Amit Khodke in the testing department at Capgemini, this, Feroz, is a query that a lot of us have. What percentage of total investment should be into debt funds? And should this percentage change at different age brackets?
See, as and when you come closer to your goal, okay, you should make a check whether there is more and more certainty towards achieving your goal. Then you should definitely reduce your equity, because if it is evident that you're going to meet your goal, at that point in time, if you don't make the change, the goal which was almost going to get met might turn around and not get met. So the point I'm trying to make is it's a dynamic process of evaluation, of trying to see the time gap with the goal and the money saved for the goal, not necessarily your age. So with time, should this allocation change? The answer is yes. Does it have to be correlated to your age? The answer is no. It should be correlated to what then? It should be the proximity towards your goal in terms of time, which should determine this change. And as you get closer, and if there is more and more certainty of the goal getting met, it is pointless to actually take the risk when you're anyways meeting the goal. At that point in time, even having 100 rupees of yours allocated for that goal in debt, as long as debt can get me there, then why am I taking the extra risk and putting the goal to a question mark?
From bonds to debentures to bitcoins. But on that note, it's time to slip into a quick breather right here on NSE FinWiz. But stay tuned, a whole host of personal finance queries answered on the other side. It's a pleasure to have you right back here on NSE FinWiz. And let's throw the floor open to participants here at Capgemini in Mumbai.
Hello sir, my name is Niranjan and my question is regarding NPS. So with recently increased equity exposure to 75%, is it a worthy candidate to be considered in place of mutual fund for investment with the tax benefit included into it?
The problem with NPS is, I tell you what, one is that equity exposure goes down over a period of time. Whereas in equity, you can decide how much equity fund, you can decide how much you want to give. For example, if you compare that with a pension fund, a 100% equity pension fund, there are a couple of funds which are available there. You can decide how much allocation you want to actually make to equity. The second is taxation point of view. The third is that compulsory annuity of 40%. So, you know, on certain portion you're paying tax, 40% of that goes into compulsory annuity. And in terms of flexibility, I believe that even though I would recommend that when investing for, retirement planning, you should not be touching that money, but you definitely require certain amount of flexibility, which NPS will not give you. So as a product package, if I look at, I think NPS has improved. It is better than what it was, but I think there are better options than NPS today.
And my question to you is, if I want to have a direct exposure to equity market, so how do I select large cap and mid cap funds? What parameters I should be looking at? I mean, their 5 years performance or any other parameters I should look before investing into it?
Firoz, if you can have your answer.
See, there are several stocks which have actually never come back to the peak which they ever touched. But there is very few mutual funds, maybe only 1% of the mutual funds would have not come back to the peak. There are stocks for the last 10 years, they wouldn't have come back to the peak which they started falling from. So, patience also might not pay off in a stock, right? There are stocks which have fallen to 1/10 the value and they're still at 1/10. And even if you hold them for 50 more years, they will not go back there. But the same can't be said about mutual funds. So you have to do industry peer group. You have to find out how much are you paying and how good is the corporate governance. These are the three nutshell larger concepts before you buy a stock.
Hemant Rastogi and Firoz Aziz, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on this episode. From all of us here at Capgemini and Team NSE FinWiz, thanks for watching and have a great weekend.
Being in the IT industry, we are technical people, so the awareness regarding investments and financial part of the world is very less in our community. So going from that point of view, it was very informative.
After this today's session, I'll have to go back and I have to revisit all my financial planning, considering the inputs they have given to me. It was very helpful.
This event was very good. The main part of the event was the mutual funds, and we had a very good information about the mutual funds, which was missing actually.
Focus. Ideate. Innovate. Enable.